On October 23, 2019, Aniah Haley Blanchard, a 19-year-old college student, was last seen late that evening in Auburn, Alabama. What initially appeared to be a missing person case would, over the following weeks, unfold into a complex and deeply disturbing investigation that drew national attention. Aniah Haley Blanchard was born on January 22, 2000. She was the daughter of Angela Harris and the stepdaughter of Walt Harris, a well-known mixed martial artist who competed in the heavyweight division of the UFC. Despite her connection to a public figure, Aniah lived a relatively private and grounded life. She grew up in Homewood, Alabama, in a close-knit family environment. Friends and relatives described her as kind, thoughtful, and determined. She had a strong sense of independence, balanced with a deep attachment to her family. Her upbringing was marked by structure and encouragement, especially from her mother, who played a central role in her development. Aniah attended Homewood High School, where she was known for her warm personality and easygoing nature. She maintained friendships easily and was generally regarded as someone who brought calmness and positivity into any room she entered. After graduating, she enrolled at Southern Union State Community College. At the time of her disappearance, Aniah had recently transferred to Auburn University, a move that represented a significant step forward in her academic journey. She was studying to pursue a career in nursing, a path that reflected her empathetic nature and desire to help others. Despite her ambitions, Aniah faced the same transitional challenges many young adults encounter: adjusting to a new environment, managing responsibilities, and building independence. Still, those close to her emphasized that she handled these challenges with maturity and resilience. Her relationship with her family remained strong. She stayed in frequent contact with her mother and stepfather, often updating them on her life. Walt Harris, though often traveling for his fighting career, maintained a protective and supportive presence in her life. To those who knew her, Aniah was more than just a student. She was a daughter, a friend, and someone with a clear vision for her future. Events leading up to the incident. In October 2019, Aniah had settled into her new routine in Auburn. She balanced school, social life, and part-time work. Like many college students, she often spent time with friends and occasionally visited nearby towns. On October 23rd, she had plans that appeared ordinary. There was nothing in her behavior that suggested distress or concern. According to investigators, her activities that day were consistent with her normal routine. That evening, Aniah was driving her black Honda CR-V. She had reportedly planned to meet someone, though details about this meeting would later become a critical part of the investigation. Her last confirmed location was at a Chevron gas station on South College Street in Auburn. Surveillance footage captured her entering the store shortly before 11:45 p.m. Security footage from the gas station became one of the earliest and most important pieces of evidence. It showed Aniah entering the store alone, purchasing items, and interacting briefly with the clerk. However, what happened outside the store raised immediate concerns once investigators reviewed the footage more closely. Another individual, later identified as Ibrahim Yazid, was also present at the gas station around the same time. Surveillance video showed him inside the store and later in the parking lot. Yazid had a criminal history and was out on bond at the time for unrelated charges. Investigators would later determine that his presence at the gas station was not coincidental. After leaving the store, Aniah was not seen again. Her phone activity ceased shortly afterward, which was highly unusual given her consistent communication with family and friends. When Aniah failed to respond to calls and messages, her family became concerned. Within a short period, her mother reported her missing. Law enforcement began treating the case as a missing persons investigation. However, early signs suggested something more serious. Her vehicle was discovered 2 days later in Montgomery, Alabama, approximately 55 miles from Auburn. The car showed signs of damage and evidence that indicated a struggle had taken place. Investigators noted blood inside the vehicle. This discovery significantly escalated the urgency of the case, shifting it from a missing persons investigation to a suspected abduction. The condition of the vehicle suggested that Aniah had likely been taken against her will. At this point, multiple law enforcement agencies became involved, including local police, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, and federal authorities. The investigation quickly expanded, focusing on both physical evidence and digital data. Surveillance footage from the gas station was reviewed extensively. This led to the identification of Ibrahim Yazid as a person of interest. Witnesses at the gas station reported seeing a man forcing a woman into a vehicle. Although initial descriptions were limited, they aligned with the timeline of Aniah's disappearance. Authorities issued a warrant for Yazid's arrest, charging him with first-degree kidnapping. The search for Yazid became a multi-state manhunt. Tips from the public and coordination between agencies played a critical role in tracking his movements. During this time, Aniah's family actively participated in search efforts and public appeals. Walt Harris, in particular, used his public platform to raise awareness, urging anyone with information to come forward. The case received widespread media coverage, which helped generate leads. Key discoveries and turning points. One of the most significant developments came when Yazid was located in Pensacola, Florida, approximately 2 weeks after Aniah's disappearance. He was taken into custody without incident. Following his arrest, investigators continued to search for Aniah. Despite extensive efforts, there was still no confirmation of her whereabouts. On November 25, 2019, more than a month after she was last seen, human remains were discovered in a wooded area in Macon County, Alabama. The location was relatively remote, making the discovery both significant and tragic. Forensic analysis later confirmed that the remains belonged to Aniah Blanchard. The investigation then shifted toward building a case that could establish exactly what had happened and ensure accountability. Following the confirmation of Aniah's death, charges against Ibrahim Yazid were upgraded from kidnapping to capital murder. The case proceeded through the legal system, with prosecutors presenting evidence gathered during the investigation. Key elements included surveillance footage placing Yazid at the gas station, witness testimony, forensic evidence from Aniah's vehicle, digital evidence tracking movements and timelines. In addition to Yazid, 2 other individuals were later charged in connection with the case. They were accused of assisting after the crime, including helping dispose of evidence. The legal proceedings were complex and extended over several years, involving pretrial motions, evidence reviews, and court hearings. Throughout this period, Aniah's family remained actively engaged, attending court sessions and advocating for justice. In 2023, Ibrahim Yazid was convicted of capital murder. The conviction marked a significant moment in the case, bringing a measure of closure to a prolonged and painful process. The court's decision was based on the cumulative evidence demonstrating his involvement in the abduction and killing of Aniah Blanchard. Sentencing followed, with the court imposing a penalty consistent with the severity of the crime. The case of Aniah Blanchard highlights several critical aspects of criminal investigations, including the importance of surveillance evidence, interagency cooperation, and public involvement. It also underscores the risks associated with violent offenders who are released on bond. In response to this case, Alabama lawmakers passed legislation known as Aniah's Law, aimed at allowing judges greater discretion in denying bail to individuals charged with certain violent offenses. For Aniah's family, the outcome of the trial provided accountability, but it did not diminish the loss. She was remembered not for the circumstances of her death, but for the life she lived. A young woman with aspirations, relationships, and a future that was taken far too soon. Her story remains a reminder of the lasting impact of violent crime, not only on victims, but on families and communities as a whole.